question that we have left after an exciting London derby is who's got the throne? I know, it had everything. Red cards, expletives, a couple of players even getting into fights. But it left us with one overriding question right here on Numbers Don't Lie. Who still has the throne between these two world-class centre midfielders? Moises Caicedo, Declan Rice, Nico Cantor in the building. I love this because this is still the question that everyone wants to know. And Nico, what's your thoughts just looking at this about who is the better overall player?
Yeah, JD, we're splitting hairs here. I'm siding with Declan Rice, but we'll get down deep to understand why I'm siding with Declan Rice, but the distance isn't that much greater. It's just a shame that a red card was a definitive factor for the game this weekend.
I love it because if we're going to break down and we're going to discard in terms of Rice versus Caicedo as we enjoyed on Sunday, only for 38 minutes or so, let's break it down into the categories that we should be judging them on. Duels, of course, tackling, discipline, which is a key part of playing the 6 or the 8, passing, and of course the most overall, which is the eye test. Now, we've given our ratings beforehand, right? So that they can come out throughout the production, so that throughout this, we can turn around and discuss in our own minds who is going to be the most dominant. But just dive into the first one in terms of the duels. I want to know what your perspective is.
By the way, per category, we have 3 votes that we can split in each category. Up to 3 votes. We can only vote twice. We can only vote once. All right, let's talk about this duels, because duels, we can talk about a lot of things within this category, right? Aerial duels, duels on the ground, dispossessing opponents. It's interesting to see when you compare Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo. First of all, look at the different part of the field where they're covering. Declan Rice, his heat map is a little bit more complete throughout the field, but you see Moises Caicedo, you see darker portions of red in certain parts of the field where he's dominating the football.
I think what you're seeing is a difference in terms of the tactical adjustments too. Declan Rice plays the 8 position of the 3 centre midfielders in that Arsenal midfield. Sometimes you'll find him in terms of in this area here, that's just purely because of his engine and what he does. And then when you move over here to Moises Caicedo, of course, his whole demeanour, his whole job is to break up everything that's going in between the lines in terms of defensively for Chelsea. So you can see in terms of the comparison between their 2 heat maps. But why we love this is because this individual over here, of course, started off in the same position as Caicedo. He might have changed now and become more of an 8 because of the attributes that he's grown and developed. But the comparison between them in terms of their body of work is still comparable.
I think they both have evolved at their new teams. So let's look into each category, beginning with these duels and aerial duels, where I kind of expect Declan Rice to perform a little bit better than Caicedo. Mind you, I think physically, Declan Rice has an edge here because he's taller, because he's bigger. So in aerial duels, this doesn't shock me, JD.
No, that wouldn't shock you at all. I mean, Caicedo's maybe about 5'10", giving him a push. Declan Rice is pushing somewhere close to 6'2".
Yeah, he's
so
there.
I can expect this, and especially when you look at the rest of his midfield, he would be the person that's expected to win those aerial duels alongside potentially either a Zubimendi or an Odergard or even an Eze in there. He's the dominant force.
Okay, but then let's go overall just duel win percentage, right? This could be when it's a one-on-one and you're dispossessing a player. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the air, and I understand why Moises Caicedo is higher on this percentile. Well, because I think if there's one thing that I want Moises Caicedo to excel at, it's winning duels. Obviously, Declan Rice has this in his arsenal, no pun intended, I swear, I didn't mean to say that. But Declan Rice does a lot more things as well. Not that Moises Caicedo doesn't do it, but this is, I would say, his bread and butter, winning duels.
I want to actually give a call to action. Do you actually think this is a fair comparison because of how different they play now? Declan Rice, of course, we've seen him throughout his West Ham and even his early Chelsea days, would have been a very good 6. We've already seen that development. We've seen it in an England shirt. But he's very much changed into this box-to-box midfielder now, who wants to impact the game in a completely different way with his pace and his power and his, of course, his passing range, which we're all going to get into. But overall, looking at the way that they actually play now, this doesn't surprise me. Looking at the way that Caicedo's only job in that midfield is to break everything up, to be a ball-winning tackling midfielder, and of course to pass in between the lines and help his team progress into the final third.
So I gave 1 vote each. I couldn't decide who was better because aerial, it's Declan Rice, but then duels overall, not necessarily all aerial, Moises Caicedo's better.
I think I gave the edge just to Caicedo just because of the responsibility. That is his main primary role within this team. And I think he demonstrates it, and he does a lot of things that's excellent in terms of for Chelsea overall. When you look at now tackling and ball recoveries, let's move into that, because this is a good comparison, because we've seen a good body of work from both of them.
Yeah, and I mean, this is ball recoveries per game. Again, number one weapon for Moises Caicedo is recovering the ball, playing in a deeper position, or at least from a starting point. Yes, Declan Rice can roam into the defensive portions of the field, and yes, Moises Caicedo does often roam into the offensive portion of the field, but he's recovering the ball at a higher rate than Declan Rice. And to me, it's obvious why this gap is so big.
I honestly, overall, I'm a little bit shocked. The only reason why I'm a little bit shocked is because I would have thought, looking at the amount of ground and the engine that Declan Rice has, maybe his ball recoveries would have been a little bit higher. But it doesn't shock me in seeing that Caicedo is in the 86% when you're looking at the top 5.
And to be specific about this category, a ball recovery is a ball that's like a second ball, right? A ball that's played over the top, a defender, your own player or a forward heads it down, and who's picking up that ball, that loose ball, and creating play? It's more often going to fall to a Moises Caicedo, where Declan Rice has other complements in the midfield. Now he has I was going to say Miguel Merino, Martin Zubimendi, excuse me, playing right behind him. Or maybe when Miguel Merino plays in the midfield, Miguel Merino's next to him. So this is tackles per game. This is, for me, Moises Caicedo, I mean, 94th percentile from the DMs in the top 5 leagues. This is why he's the best. He is elite. He's world class in this specific categories. You, me, 1-1, boom.
Bang. And you know exactly what you're expecting from him. This is why Chelsea paid a surplus of 100 million. This is why he's been touted across the world as arguably the best in this position as to what he's done. And when you compare him to some of his peers as well, overall, you can see that he has that very unique space that he finds himself in, where he's, of course, the tackles per game are going to always be high, but the recoveries per game are also very high. Declan Rice is good. And you know what's so interesting about this? This is really showing me the evolution in terms of his game. Maybe he's no longer seen as a 6, and because of Zubimendi, who you just mentioned there, he has less of the dirty work, as they call it, in the midfield to do.
That's exactly right. And the fact that both of these players aren't like in the upper right corner of this plot graph, it's because I think they have the ball a lot. Yeah. Right? Players trending towards the right-hand side of this graph probably need to do a lot more dirty work on average than both of these players. So I gave Moises Caicedo the edge here.
And you know what's only, this is how you know this is live. I actually gave Caicedo 2 in the pre-production. Rice 2, but I actually would remix it now and actually give Caicedo, if you gave it to me again, I'd remix it and give, because of the respect, seeing the numbers and maybe seeing the body of work that he's done. But this is the next bit I don't think is going to be a question mark. All right. Right, the discipline. Now, we've seen Chelsea have had a problem with discipline this year. Yeah. Arsenal have been through their own trajectory in terms of discipline. But does it surprise you when you see the stats and sort of way up next to each other?
No, and can I tell you something? I kind of want my Moises Caicedo role player on my team to have these types of numbers.
100%.
Yes, I think there's a lot of value in having a defensive midfielder that's clean. But sometimes I want my center defensive mid to be nasty. I want him to break tackles and maybe break somebody in the process too, almost like he did this weekend. Obviously, there's a component of being overzealous. And I think Moises Caicedo falls into that category a little bit too much for my taste, but he's very young, and that it's a fine line that you play with, especially, let me talk as a Latino. This is what I love in a center defensive mid. I want him to be nasty. I want him to be a MF, you know? I want him to get at players. I want players to be scared of him.
So I gave it from the opposite perspective. I love the Latino energy. I love the fact that he's going to be tenacious in that midfield. But at the same time, I'm still requiring a fine line of discipline, because I've seen great defensive midfielders that have worn this Chelsea shirt, i.e. your N'Golo Kantes, i.e. your Claude Makeleles, that were able to just rein it in but still have the same tenacity in that midfield from a different perspective. That's the only thing that he has to develop in terms of his overall game.
You gave him a clean sweep.
I gave Declan Rice a clean sweep, because the only red card that I can honestly remember in terms of Declan Rice is the ill discipline, right? In terms of kicking the ball away. But that's an annoying aspect more than anything else. So now we've discussed in terms of the defensive aspects, I want you to dive into the attacking part, because this is the part that I think is going to shock a lot of people overall, because you would naturally think, of course, as we just spoke about, the progression that Declan Rice has had in his game, especially from an offensive perspective, he will be head and shoulders above. But when you actually start looking at the passing completion and you see where these two players actually weigh up, Moises Caicedo is still up there, which is really showcasing his overall completeness overall as a midfielder right now. 92% is where he ranks up atop the top 5 leagues DMs. And this right here is a surprising aspect to you, Nico. Yes or no?
A little bit. It's just I'm questioning what type of passes Moises Caicedo is making versus Declan Rice. Moises recovers, short pass, starts a play, right? Those are good passes. He's very accurate in those passes too, but I imagine the risk taking of those type of passes are less than Declan Rice. Declan Rice is probably taking more risky passes.
I like that. That means that you're basically saying Caicedo is more ticking over the possession left and right, whereas Declan Rice is having to make those progressive passes in between the line. Right. Different roles, and this is the best part, because now we can dive into the long balls. And when you look at the long balls overall, again, another shocking aspect of it is when you weigh it up, there is a gap between the two midfielders. So now we're getting a full perspective as to the way Chelsea are playing, and also Arsenal were dictating possession. And again, Caicedo leads in the passing department. Does that shock you?
This one shocked me a little bit more, but I'm thinking about it. How many long passes is Declan Rice playing per game? I would imagine Moises Caicedo is playing more because he has more space to play in the long pass, right? Because he is that player that is going to dictate, is going to construct that first play, that first outlet. It's either short or it's either long. I imagine he's hitting a little bit more long passes because he has more field in front of him, whereas Declan Rice is a progressor of the ball. He'll regain and he'll drive. I remember that one goal with West Ham in the Conference League. It was against Dinamo Zagreb, perhaps. I forget who it was against, but he picked it up so deep. And that was the first time where I really saw it. I said, whoa, he's got another aspect to his game. He's a big boy, but he drives and he makes plays. He finds teammates. He's very, very good at that.
When you're talking about aspects of his game, yes, I love the fact that they're trusting him in those driving positions. His dribbling and his speed is actually hugely criminally underrated. But another aspect that he's actually pinpointed, and I use that word pinpoint on purpose, is his set pieces. Because when you look at his expected assists from set plays, Declan Rice is head and shoulders above everybody across Europe in terms of being able to deliver pinpoint on the money deliveries. Now they can call them set piece FCs, but you still need somebody who's going to be able to do your Beckham-esques and put it on a plate for somebody. And Declan Rice is becoming, I would say, from a consistency aspect, one of the best in the world at doing that.
Well, he takes the corners for Arsenal.
Of course.
Of course, he's going to have a high XA, right? Expected assist. But you could take corners and it be a crap cross, you know?
Oh, we said a few of those. Don't beat the first man.
But the delivery is pretty incredible. So I give him the edge just because the types of passes he makes are different to the ones that Moises Caicedo makes. The thing is that they have complements each on the field. Subimendi is a compliment to Declan Rice, and Enzo Fernandez is a good compliment further up the field to what Moises Caicedo does. Not that Moises Caicedo couldn't hit the type of passes that Declan Rice, but he's less often called upon to make that type of pass.
Well, the favorite part, the part that everybody dives in, this is where the nerds are called to action, the eye test, right? This is where we dive in. So this is your opinion and my opinion in terms of where they weigh up. And if they do reveal it, I have a feeling where you're going to go anyway.
I think you're going to hate me after everything that we talked about.
I won't, because I see what's so interesting within this. You said it. You're pretty much defending the Englishman. I'm pretty much defending the. Oh, this is interesting.
Listen,
I call it a square draw because I do feel that it depends on the team tactically as to what's required.
Correct.
Right, and it does depend in terms of what Maresca wants from his team and Arteta respectively want from their team. So I think they're both world class. And as you said at the top of this, you really are just choosing between apple and pears, as they say.
Okay,
right?
you're drafting a team for your five-a-side game,
I knew this was
and the group of players that you have in front of you have Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo, and the rest are your friends.
Yeah.
Who are you drafting first?
Five-a-side. Five-a-side.
No. Let's go 11s. Let's go 11s to keep it the fair comparison. It's 11s, right?
Yeah.
It's all of your friends.
Yeah.
It's 20 players No, 18, because you're playing in the game too. 18 players. It's you and me. And Declan Rice and Moise Caicedo are there in the group of players. And you got first pick in the draft. Who are you drafting first?
Okay, do you want to know why I would choose Declan Rice? Not because of his allegiance, not because he's English, not to do with any of that. Just because all of my friends are probably 6'2", 6'3" plus. So the set pieces would be absolutely, we would dominate. Yes, that's the only reason why.
Okay.
Yeah, but I love your eye test. You choose me your selection. Give me a reason why.
I'm choosing Declan Rice. I think he gives you overall a lot more. There's certain areas where Moise Caicedo excels, but in an 11, I need to choose one player. It's Declan Rice. One player first, it's him.
Another segment, Numbers Don't Lie, powered by Sofa.
Mikel Arteta has made it clear that Arsenal will need to unleash their complete player against Bayern Munich. The Gunners host the German champions at the Emirates Stadium on Wednesday, and one man in particular could be decisive. Ebereki Eze, described as a very complete player by teammate Mikel Merino, is emerging as one of Arsenal's most dangerous weapons ahead of their Champions League clash with Bayern. The 27-year-old announced himself in North London with a stunning hat-trick in his first derby since arriving in a £67.5 million move from Crystal Palace. His 3 brilliant goals dismantled Tottenham, and truthfully, he could have scored even more. Merino believes every one of Arsenal's 8 summer signings has lifted the squad's level, helping the team build a 6-point lead at the top of the Premier League. But Wednesday's matchup is different. Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champions, represent the toughest test yet for Arteta's side. Speaking after the win over Spurs, Merino praised Eze's qualities and hinted at the impact he could have in such a high-stakes European battle. "We've brought in a lot of players who can make a difference. But you can see that other teams have spent big as well," the Spain international said. "Individual brilliance can win matches, sure, but in the end, it's the team that matters. If you have great players who don't connect, that's a problem. The good thing about this group is that everyone thinks about the team first." When asked about Eze specifically, Merino didn't hesitate. "I think he's incredibly complete. He can dribble, he can pass, and his technical quality is outstanding. In Spain, we always talk about players who can connect with others. He has that naturally. He grew up with that instinct to link play, move the ball, and build relationships on the pitch. He also has the mindset to get involved, demand the ball, and influence the game. At the same time, he's strong, he can take players on, and he can finish. He's a truly complete signing." Merino also touched on how the modern game often reduces players to simple numbers. "These days everyone judges players by goals and assists, that's just how it is. But as footballers, we see the deeper qualities he brings, the technique, the movement, the intelligence. Even in training, you can tell immediately how special he is. Yes, he's scoring goals, but he's much more than that. He's an exceptional player, and we're incredibly lucky to have him. He can play in several positions and adapt to different systems. He's been a huge addition for Arsenal." Beyond the technical qualities, Merino believes Eze's attitude, and the healthy competition within the squad, will be crucial in Arsenal's title push. You can hear the calm in Ebereki's voice and see it in the way he carries himself. He's confident, grounded, and every morning we sit together in the sauna at the training ground and talk about everything, he added with a smile. "He's a great guy, already fully integrated, and we need players like him. Competition is fierce. There's so much quality in this squad. That's exactly what the manager wanted, as many top players as possible, all ready to play. It makes his decisions tough, choosing who starts and who doesn't, but it also pushes every one of us to give our best in every session. And that's why we're improving as a team." As Arsenal prepare for Bayern's arrival, Arteta is facing one of the most delicate balancing acts of the season. The squad is healthy, competition is fierce, and expectations have never been higher. But behind the scenes, there is a growing sense that Eze's versatility and calm presence may be essential against a Bayern side known for controlling the tempo in big European nights. Arteta himself has hinted at Eze's importance without naming him directly. After the Tottenham victory, the manager spoke about the need for players who can break pressure, dictate rhythm, and stay composed when the game becomes chaotic. Those inside the club believe those comments were aimed at Eze as much as anyone. The coaching staff has been particularly impressed by how quickly he has adapted to Arsenal's positional play structure, a system that demands far more tactical discipline than what he was used to at Crystal Palace. Analysts at the club point to his growing influence not only in the final third, but also in build-up phases, where his ability to glide past pressure could help Arsenal bypass Bayern's aggressive midfield line. There is also an awareness that Bayern's fullbacks tend to push high, leaving spaces between the lines. Iza's skill set, sharp turns, deceptive acceleration, and precise final balls, could be exactly what Arteta needs to exploit those gaps. Outside the club, pundits have already started circling Wednesday's match as a defining moment for the £67.5 million signing. Some believe that if Eze can impose himself on a Champions League quarter-final against Bayern Munich, it will confirm his arrival among Europe's elite creative players. Former players have echoed that sentiment. Several ex-Arsenal figures, speaking on television over the weekend, highlighted the need for someone who can change the temperature of the match with a moment of calm or an unexpected burst of creativity. Eze, they argued, is one of the few in the squad capable of both. Meanwhile, Bayern Munich come into the match with their own confidence. Their midfield trio has been one of the most dominant in Europe this season, and they have shown a repeated ability to suffocate opponents early. That dynamic is precisely why Arteta may lean on Eze's composure. When the game tightens, Arsenal will need a player capable of slowing it down, protecting the ball, and finding solutions in tight spaces. Within Arsenal's dressing room, Merino's praise reflects a broader consensus. Senior players have reportedly been struck by Eze's humility and work ethic, qualities that have helped him integrate seamlessly into a squad that already had strong internal chemistry. Staff members describe him as someone who never forces the game and lets the match come to him, characteristics that could prove invaluable in a high-tension Champions League tie. As kickoff approaches, the narrative surrounding the match has shifted. What began as a test of Arsenal's resilience has quietly become a spotlight on whether Eze can elevate them in Europe the same way he has in the Premier League. For Arteta, the equation is simple. If Arsenal are to overcome Bayern, they will need more than intensity. They will need control. They will need creativity. And increasingly, they will need the completeness Eze brings to every phase of the pitch. Whether he starts in a wide role as a floating midfielder, or even as an interior playmaker, the expectation is the same. Eze will have to find the spaces others cannot, and influence the game in ways that statistics alone will not capture. The stakes are high, the opponent is formidable, and the spotlight is intense. But within the walls of London Coney, the belief is growing that this is exactly the kind of stage Eberechi Eze was signed for. Martin Odergard is nearing a return to action after suffering a medial collateral ligament injury in Arsenal's 2-0 win over West Ham earlier in October. Yet, 3.5 years after Mikel Arteta named him captain, the Norwegian finds himself in an unfamiliar position. His place in the starting lineup is no longer guaranteed. For the first time since joining the club permanently from Real Madrid in August 2021, there is real debate over whether he remains an automatic choice for Arteta's 11. Odegaard, now 26, has been central to Arsenal's resurgence under Arteta, the conductor who shaped the team's rhythm through some of their most fluid football. But this season, the Gunners have been forced to navigate long stretches without their captain, first due to a shoulder issue that kept him out of 4 matches in September, and then because of the knee collision with West Ham's Crescencio Somerville that sidelined him again. And during his absence, something significant happened. Eberechi Eze stepped into the spotlight. Eze's sensational hat-trick in the North London Derby has complicated the picture. Now thriving in a central role, the England international has given Arsenal a different kind of presence around the edge of the box. A blend of unpredictability, directness, and two-footed confidence that opponents struggle to contain. He may not control games with the same metronomic precision as Odegaard, but he offers a spark, a willingness to take risks at moments when Arsenal need a jolt of creativity. After such a standout performance against Tottenham, it feels almost impossible to imagine Arteta leaving Eze out. The manager has always had a soft spot for players riding a wave of confidence, and Eze is currently surfing at full height. There was a similar situation back in September, when Merino was handed a start against Manchester City after scoring 4 times in 2 games for Spain, including a hat-trick against Turkey. Arteta doesn't hesitate to reward form. Eze has carried that form onto the international stage as well, recently scoring a stunning goal for England in a 2-0 win over Serbia in the World Cup qualifiers at Wembley. Though he can play on the left, it has always been clear that Arteta brought him to the Emirates to operate in midfield. And with Declan Rice and Martin Zubamendi near untouchable in the double pivot, the odds of Eze and Odegaard consistently starting together seem slim. That leaves Odegaard in an unfamiliar position. He needs minutes to rebuild sharpness, yet Arsenal's medical team won't rush him. The plan is likely to ease him back through short substitute appearances before restoring him to larger roles. But even once fully fit, Odegaard faces genuine competition, because Eze has shifted the landscape. His arrival has raised the team's ceiling, and his performances have earned him the right to keep his place. Before the dismantling of Tottenham, Ease had scored only twice for Arsenal, one against Port Vale in the Carabao Cup and another versus his former club Crystal Palace, a clever finish that sealed victory. Now, with 5 goals across all competitions, he sits just one behind Odegaard's total from last season, when the captain made 45 appearances. Odegaard's 2023-24 numbers were outstanding: 11 goals, 12 assists, influence written across every competition. That is the standard he must match again if he wants to reclaim his spot, because Ease is hungry, confident, and eager to impress ahead of next summer's World Cup. Arteta will insist that Arsenal need both players at their best if they are to meet their ambitions in the months ahead. And with Kai Havertz also working his way back to full fitness, potentially slotting into midfield behind marquee striker Victor Gyökeres, the battle for places has never been fiercer at the Emirates. For Odegaard, the message is clear: he must rise to the challenge. His leadership and quality remain unquestioned, but he can no longer rely on reputation alone. If he embraces the competition and fights his way back into the side, his return could push Arsenal to even greater heights. And if the team has already reached this level without several key figures, the potential for what comes next may be even greater. Inside the club, staff members are quietly acknowledging that Arsenal are entering a new phase, one where no player, not even the captain, is immune to tactical evolution. Arteta has spent the past 2 seasons building a squad capable of sustaining pressure across multiple competitions, and the emergence of Ease is a sign that the manager's long-term planning is beginning to bear fruit. Depth is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. But with depth comes difficult decisions. Arteta has always valued balance in midfield, and the contrasting profiles of Odegaard and Ease force him to reconsider what type of midfield best suits the team's ambitions in Europe and the Premier League. The technical control and spatial awareness that Odegaard brings have defined Arsenal's identity under Arteta. Conversely, Ease's dynamism, physical presence, and unpredictable touches give Arsenal a new dimension, especially against teams that sit deep or defend aggressively in central areas. This internal shift has also caught the attention of analysts and former players. Several pundits have begun to question whether the captaincy should guarantee a place in the lineup, especially at a club with ambitions of challenging for the Champions League. Others argue that Odegaard's leadership is too valuable to sideline, pointing to the standards he sets in training and his influence over younger players. Those debates are already spilling into the media, and they will only intensify as the season progresses. There is also the tactical question of whether Arteta might eventually experiment with a system that accommodates both Ease and Odegaard, something he briefly attempted earlier in the season during the win over West Ham. But with Rice and Zubimendi forming an almost impenetrable midfield pairing, any reshuffle risks destabilizing the defensive structure that has made Arsenal one of the most resilient teams in the league. The manager has hinted that he is open to adjustments, but only if they enhance the team's overall cohesion. For Odegaard himself, the challenge is as much psychological as it is physical. He has worked hard to cultivate an image of calm authority, a leader who raises the level of those around him through clarity and consistency. Now he must show that he can adapt, compete, and respond to adversity. His teammates still speak of him with admiration, describing him as one of the most studious and detail-oriented players at London Coney. They believe that once he regains full rhythm, he will naturally reassert his influence. Yet even they acknowledge that the landscape has shifted. One senior player privately remarked that, "The team is different now, Ease has changed what we can do in the final third." That sentiment reflects not a lack of faith in Odegaard, but an understanding that Arsenal have evolved while he has been sidelined. For Arteta, the ideal scenario is straightforward: a fully fit Odegaard competing with a fully confident Ease, creating a level of internal competition that lifts the entire squad. The manager often speaks about the need for healthy tension among his players, pressure that keeps standards high without fracturing unity. The arrival of Victor Gyökeres, combined with the recovery of Havertz, only amplifies that dynamic. Arsenal's season will almost certainly hinge on these midfield decisions. With Champions League knockout matches approaching and the Premier League title race tightening, Arteta must decide not only who starts, but what kind of identity he wants his team to carry into the defining months of the campaign. The next few weeks will reveal whether Odegaard's return sparks a resurgence or a battle for relevance. If he manages to reclaim his place, it could serve as a reminder of why Arteta trusted him with the armband in the first place. If he struggles, it will underline how rapidly Arsenal are progressing, and how little room there is for sentiment at the highest level. Either way, the captain's response will shape not just his future, but the trajectory of a team that believes it is on the brink of something significant.